Well, thanks for joining us on the show, Ajaz. Considering the task that awaits you, I mean, I imagine there are rugby teams that would have felt more confident playing the All Blacks at Eden Park than a cricket team rocking up in India to play, the team. What at the end of this three tests would you say, apart from a 3-0 win for the Black Caps, what would success look like, do you think?
I think the biggest thing over here is competing, and we know how good that Indian setup is when it comes to playing at home, and how balanced they are from both a batting and a bowling aspect. I guess they've got something for all conditions to a certain degree. The modern Indian cricket team can play on a green seamer, but do just as well on an absolute turner. So I guess the challenge for us is looking at what presents to us based off of, I guess, the wickets, and then I guess challenging them on that. Being better than them in those departments. And I think if we can walk away from the series going, you know what, we were actually better than them in all or most of those facets, and I think as a team we can kind of be very happy with that. International touring sides traditionally don't do very well in India, so it would be nice to kind of do the opposite of that. And at the same time, I guess a lot of the times you can think negatively as soon as you kind of arrive, and it's about kind of putting that out of your mind and really just going out there and playing your best cricket. And I think if you look too far ahead, then you kind of get caught up in all of it. But if you play to whatever's in front of you, you've got you've got the best chance, I guess, to try and succeed.
It's been an interesting time because obviously you were supposed to play the test in India against Afghanistan, which obviously never happened. But you've played some other tests in Asia, so you've actually got this incredible like long Asian run of matches. It's very different though, and I know New Zealand cricket plan quite a lot. But how do you plan for a team that has no real holes on paper? Like, I mean, I've been doing this thing recently of trying to work out like which teams through history would actually tour India at the moment and be successful. There aren't that many that would have it. How do you plan for that sort of thing? It's a little bit like going to the West Indies or Australia in their peaks, and it's not obvious, is it?
No, it certainly isn't. But at the same time, it's a sport, right? Like, and everyone has their day, and everyone has good days and bad days. And I think what we tend to forget sometimes is they're still humans at the other end as well. They're not. I mean, yes, they're phenomenal cricketers, but they're not machines, and they can't all just turn up and play as good as their stats say every single day. So it's really making sure you capitalise in those moments, especially within Test cricket, because those small moments can shift and change a game. And so for us, it's I guess understanding when we're in those moments and making the most of them, because they can really shift a game one way or the other. Because if you step up to the challenge, then you can really take it, with both hands. But at the same time, if you kind of falter in those moments, then they can really capitalize. And that's something that India are very good at. And those moments, they don't really tend to give them away to you too easy. So I guess for me personally, as a bowler, it's just making sure that I present the best that I can while I'm out in the middle. And I guess adapt to the challenges that we face, because we know that there are going to be challenges. There's no doubt about that. And it's just kind of seeing, how we face them and how we adapt to them. We've done a lot of, I guess, like you say, preparation for the subcontinent. We've been fortunate to train in facilities that have been turning a lot and all of that kind of stuff. So it's really about just trying to put that all out in the middle. And sometimes it's easier said than done because it's more of a mental battle sometimes as well.
What about if we look at how you go about things, because a lot of the other Black Caps players, even if they're not playing Test cricket, they'll be playing a lot of other cricket elsewhere in the world, different formats. Um, but you have at the start, I mean, the season has even got underway in New Zealand, the domestic season. So there was quite a gap, wasn't there, between your last first class cricket essentially and that abandoned Test match followed by the first Test against Sri Lanka. And I was watching some of that and I was thinking, and we actually spoke about it between the Test matches. Surely you, as you just getting back bowling, from innings to innings, is you'd see
Yeah,
progression.
I mean, it comes down to preparation. I mean, for me personally, I guess it's a role that I've become accustomed to, and I know what I need to do to be able to prepare. And I guess I come to the subcontinent with an idea of what to expect, so I can kind of prepare and train accordingly, so that when I am here, I'm prepared and ready to go. It has been an interesting winter. I had a small knee op as soon as our season finished up in New Zealand, so I had about a month's layoff, which for me is probably a lot longer than I would normally take. But at the same time, it was almost like forced upon me, so it was quite good in a way. But as a spinner, you tend to bowl lots of overs anyway, and for me personally, like it's quite easy. I go into an indoor centre by myself and I'll spend an hour to 45 minutes and I'll have walked out of there having bowled, 15 or 16 overs in that space of time. So in terms of volume, that's not really an issue. I guess the thing that you do, I guess, take a little bit longer to adjust to is gamesmanship, and that's where experience comes into play. I mean, I fall back on my 12 to 15 years of first class experience and having played lots of first class cricket, and you tend to use that to kind of get the best result out there, really. From a skills perspective, you can always hone that, but it's more the gamesmanship that kind of can be the challenge sometimes.
We've seen a lot of Rishabh Pant, who, to be fair, does not respect left arm finger spin at all. We're not even, I won't even bring up Jaiswal. I don't want to give you nightmares, but with someone like Rishabh Pant, I remember watching him against Jack Leach quite a few years ago now, when long on wasn't, like, he didn't see long on as a deterrent for anything. I think England had a deep mid wicket and a long on, and he just went, well, I'll probably get a few sixes away here, and then it's up to them. How do you go into that kind of a battle? Like, he doesn't, foot marks don't seem to affect him, bowling over the wicket or around the wicket, darting them in. He's just going to come for you, right? Like, how do you prepare for that? Do you watch a lot of footage of him, or, is there something else that you've been trying to do?
Yeah, I guess we do know a lot about players in this modern era. You get to see a lot of footage and how they operate and where their scoring zones are, I guess. But players of that nature are pretty exciting to bowl to as well. They offer a different kind of challenge. But at the same time, they also offer opportunities because I guess their mindset is so positive and such an attacking frame that, if you can get your bowling right, that it also presents opportunities for you where, someone who I say would play the long innings, for example, some of those guys that we bowled to in Sri Lanka, they kind of knuckled down and played the long innings. So you're kind of like waiting to create an opportunity. Where with someone who's quite exciting like Rishabh is, I guess that the opportunity is going to present itself at some point. It's just a matter of how and making sure you're best set up to make the most of those opportunities. And that comes down to field sets and bowling and mindsets as well, and being comfortable with going for a six or two to get that wicket. And it's the old, I guess, an old spinner's trick where you kind of give a few to get one. So yeah, it's kind of a bit of a cat and mouse game, especially with players so dynamic. So it is an exciting challenge. We know how capable he is, and he's really come back with some tenacity and ferociousness about his batting, especially since his layoff. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be good fun, and I guess that's the challenge, and that's what you look forward to, really.
The New Zealand team over the last, 10 years, really, maybe a little bit longer, has been there's been a concerted and consistent amount of success. It's been quite a stable team. Obviously, there's been a couple of pillars in that side. Kane Williamson's been playing since 2010. And even when Brendan McCullum stepped aside, it seemed like a seamless transition. But earlier this year, Tim Southee and Kane, they registered their 100th Test match against Australia at Christchurch. Fast forward, Kane's missing the first Test. There's certainly a little bit of a concern about him for the rest of the series. Tim Southee stepped away from the captaincy. And some of the chat in New Zealand is that, we're reaching the end of a cycle. Does it feel like that within the side? That there's always change, obviously, within any sporting setup, but does it feel like we're approaching either the end or the start? I mean, is that something that you pick up on?
Not necessarily. I guess sport is quite cyclical, isn't it? Like, I mean, guys who have been there for a long time, they get old, and then when they are done, they're done. And at the same time, like, if we go back in eras, we've always looked at players at their time and at their peak, and you go, you're never going to find someone like him. And then through the years, someone else kind of comes through, and new talent comes through, and they bring a different edge to the game. So, I mean, at the moment, we've got a little bit of a mix of, I guess, some youth with some experience. And it's a great environment to be in. I suppose if you're a youngster coming into this environment, it's really encouraging in the sense that you've got some greats of the game to be able to feed off. And likewise, if you're kind of a more mature individual who's kind of towards the back end of their career, it's also quite nice to have the youngsters around because they really lift you up and make you feel younger as well. So yeah, I guess if you look at the team holistically, yeah, certainly it's a maturing team, and it's going to change a lot over, I guess, the next 5 years. But at the same time, it presents opportunities for youngsters to come through and really, grab that mantle and really take it forward. At the moment, obviously, we're kind of shifting in the same direction. It'll be interesting to see, when the team does kind of move forward in 5 years' time, what that looks like and what that style of play looks like. But I certainly think the characteristics of New Zealanders and the New Zealand team will certainly stick around. It's just the style of play may change and may, subtly be different.
Um, just a last question, really. When New Zealand toured in 2021, Rashin Ravindra made his debut. And you talk about the new guys coming through. I mean, I think we're all very excited to see how William O'Rourke's going to go. He's really impressed in the last, since he made his debut against South Africa. But, you know, when you look back at the last couple of years and you see how Rashin has progressed, there must be some pride in there as well. I mean, looking to the future, it seems like it's him, isn't it? I mean, he's top scorer in the last two series, scored 240 against South Africa. He's playing in the IPL now. He's gone a long way in a relatively short space of time.
Yeah, I think even when he started off, there was no doubt he was going to be a world-class cricketer. I think it was, I guess, when I look at it, it's probably giving him some time to grow into that role. In the last couple of years, it's probably allowed him to do that rather than kind of, put him into the deep end real young. But obviously, from a management perspective, I have no idea what that looked like. But certainly, when you see what he's been able to do in the last 12 months, it's been phenomenal. And you look at someone like that and you go, wow, like he's someone that you can kind of rely on to kind of carry those others who are going to come through behind him. But he's also had the luxury of being around some of our best batters. The guys like Kane, guys like Ross, guys like Tommy, and so he's had all these mature batsmen that he can kind of take from and learn from, and I guess spin it in his own way. And so he's had the luxury of having some of our greatest ever batsmen to kind of, I guess, watch and observe, and that's probably held him in good stead as well. And he's a very mature character, and he's very mature especially from a batting perspective, for his age. And we've seen what he's been able to do in a world stage, and there's no doubt in my mind that he's only going to continue to get better. And so that's very, very exciting. And you speak of someone like Will, who's also, what he's brought and how he's kind of, stepped onto the world stage has been phenomenal. But I remember playing an A series with him maybe a year and a bit ago. And at the time, I was just thinking, man, this guy's good. Like, this guy has actually got, well, looking at him then, I thought this guy's good enough to play international cricket. And you don't really see that too often from, a young fast bowler. So it's quite exciting. I think the young crop of fast bowlers that are going to, I think, come through have certainly got what it takes to take to international cricket. So that's exciting as well. And they've got big shoes to fill. I guess you look at someone like Tim and Trent, who have been phenomenal for New Zealand over a long period of time. And, when those guys leave, the new crop is really going to have to stand up, and they're going to have very, very big shoulders to kind of fill. And so I think we're in a good space, but certainly it is going to be different to the New Zealand team that we've seen for the last kind of 10 years. But it is also exciting to see the youngsters come through and really, I guess put their own spin on it.
Brilliant stuff. Well, I really appreciate your time, Ajaz. Of course, the last time you were in India, you took 10 wickets in an inning, so everybody's got to improve. So, first person
11.
to take 20, 20 in a match. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
been
yeah.
done. So,
Well,
hat trick,
yeah,
two hat tricks, back to back, 6 wickets in 6 balls.
there is a bit of pressure on. I did say to the boys in Sri Lanka, if I ever scored 100 in international cricket, that would be me. Because there's not much more I don't think I could achieve in an international cricketing stage. So, yeah, that's probably one that I'm aiming for more so now than the bowling side of things. But yeah, no, it's pretty special to be back, and I guess being born and brought up in Mumbai and being in India, it's always pretty special to kind of play against India. And it's the craze for cricket in India is just something different, isn't it? And I don't think you can replicate it in most places around the world. So yeah, it is quite cool.
Are you recognised more when you're in? I mean, you're wearing your kit most of the time, but I mean, are you recognised more in India than you are in New Zealand?
Uh, no, it's quite interesting because I think when I am in India, no one expects me to be in India. So when they do see me, they're probably there. You can kind of gauge that they've recognised you and they don't know from where, or they've kind of recognised you and thought about it and then gone, "There's no way he's here." So then they kind of just carry on, which is great. And also, I think IPL is the big one over here. The IPL players just they're there as just different gravy. If you've been playing in the IPL, you can't really walk around on the streets because you'll just get mobbed straight away. So I'm quite fortunate. I hide behind the IPL players and just sneak off.
You make 100 or 40 balls, maybe you get a contract.
Yeah, 100%. That's the way to go on it.
Brilliant. Look, mate, really appreciate your time. And
No, thank you very much. Thanks for
yeah,
having me.
we commentated on your 10th. In fact, Jarrod called your 10th wicket.
Oh wow, that's
a,
awesome.
a career highlight. I couldn't believe it, to be honest. It was just fantastic.
Oh, you and me
Fantastic.
both. You and me both. I don't
When
think
that
I
ball,
don't think
when the ball was in the air, did
oh,
you must have been like,
see, the thing is, everyone kind of asked me, like, when did I start thinking it was a possibility? And
Mm.
for me personally, knowing cricket and knowing that anything can happen, it wasn't a possibility till I got to the ninth wicket.
Yep.
But then also in my head, I was thinking, well, I've got 4 or 5 balls to get this 10th wicket. Otherwise, there's a wicket falling at the other end. And it just so happened that it went sky high. And when it went up, um,
was it
it was
Ravindra? Who caught
miles off.
it? Was
Rachin
it?
caught it.
It was
Yeah.
Ratchin, wasn't it? Because it
Yeah,
did go.
sky
It went
high.
high. It was perfect as well.
Oh,
Because
it was
you
it
could
was
give it
just
the big one as well. Like it's in the
yeah, it
air.
was
You could set
just
the
sky
scene. I mean,
high, just sky high, and you had plenty of time to watch it come down as well. And it was just like airy hush around the ground, but then it was just madness afterwards. So yeah, it was a really special moment, and I mean, I'll probably, I guess, appreciate it a lot more after I finish playing. But when you're playing, you're constantly thinking about the next
Mm.
objective, I guess, and you kind of try and put the past behind you and kind of look at what's ahead. And I guess once you're done with cricket, that's when you can kind of go back and look at those things and go, wow, that was a special time, and those memories will probably always stick with you, which is the great thing about it.
My memory was that if you were a proper club spinner, when that ball went up, you would have looked the other direction, just been
Oh,
like, I don't even want to see if it's dropped, and I'm looking the other way. It's like it wasn't even dropped. That's how a
oh,
club spinner would have handled it. But a professional's like, oh, I'll have a cheeky look, see if he gets this.
yeah, well, I mean, I think everyone's eyes were on Ruchin, but also it was like I was nervous for him. I wasn't really worried about the 10th wicket, but I was nervous for him because he had a
Typical Kiwi. No Australian in the world would say that, would they? I
no,
was worried for Rashid.
no, but the thing is, like catches like that, you have a lot of time under them, and so it certainly would have crossed his mind around, what that catch meant, more so than anyone else. And the youngest kid on the park playing his second or third game or something like that. So when you kind of think of it like that, and it's kind of a big deal, right? Like for him to be under that ball and to be calm and kind of take it is pretty amazing. Because I know I certainly would not want it coming my way, and I was the one bowling it.
Brilliant stuff. Well, let's hope we call that one again, eh?
No,
Let's get another one.
Or something similar.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Ajaz, thanks, mate. Really appreciate your time. I know I said 5 or 6 minutes. That's more like 20 minutes. So,
yeah, sorry, I talk a lot. So
no, you don't need to apologise to us. It's
all right.
That's not how. Again, Kiwi. I mean, no one.
We'll get you a job in podcasting. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.